program, and we need to set them up for success as best we can. And a huge part of that is with records, because, records is more than just a birth certificate and a social security card and, immunization. A great deal of that are their educational records, such as their transcripts, their any special education records and ILPAs and things such as that. So our kids have already been dealt a very difficult hand, even having to be in our programs, but we need to do everything we're big enough to do in order to make a transition to one of our programs and out of one of our programs as effective as possible. I know that lots of times our kids are credit deficient, and the way we transfer records is key in making sure that they have all of the credits on there that are earned. So that's just kind of the preface of why we thought we should do this training again this year, because I know when I go from program to program on our monitoring visits, and I've talked with Peggy too, this often, records comes up often, probably 2 visits out of 5 or more where, gosh, I just can't seem to be getting records, or I get incomplete records, or I wish they would send me. So, so that's what the kind of the origins or the impetus for this training came about. So we're going to, Justin and I are going to talk some, but we are definitely we're very intentional about leaving some time at the end for some discussion about things that you see or things that you experience in doing your records, transferring, both importing and exporting, so that maybe we can kind of, share some great ideas across the different types of programs and across, across our Commonwealth. So first of all, I want to talk about Infinite Campus a little bit. And there are lots of records on Infinite Campus. And when you enroll a student, you will go on to Infinite Campus and request a records release. And that's a huge way that you can import lots of vital records. But some of our programs are programs that have very short stays. We have programs where kids may be enrolled in school less than an entire day. And so I've had people say, well, gosh, they're not even here all day. Should I even enroll them and import the records? 100% yes. And there's a very good reason for that. When you import records on Infinite Campus, it's like a trail. And each place that child has been will show up on that Infinite Records enrollment page. And let's say that I have Freddie Smith that enrolls with me today and unenrolls this afternoon. If I don't import those records, the chain has been broken of his records. And that makes it very difficult to, well, number one, enroll the student, but number two, to get all of their records imported in the Infinite Campus. So if that happens to you, I've always said teachers should take some classes in detective work, because oftentimes teachers and administrators have to do a lot of detective work to figure out where the student has been and how to get them imported, their records imported. So let's say I got a kid and Justin had them previously for one day and he didn't enroll them in Infinite Campus and import all of those records. We would have to go to the place before Justin, and Justin would have to request the records, and those records would have to be released to him. And then Justin could then release those records to me, so we would have the complete picture. And I know that for one day, that seems like a bit much, but That's the way we have to do it in order for everything to be have a complete record for that student. Okay, so I also want to talk a little bit about records that when you are releasing records, some things that you have to keep in mind and stay aware of. There are some records that we have on Infinite Campus that have to be locked before they are sent. And if they're not locked, they won't be sent properly. Those are things like individual education plans, any special ed documents, ILPs, ILPAs. All of those type of documents have to be locked in order for them to send properly. And if they're not locked, they will not import right. You will have an incomplete record. So it's important before you send those that those are locked. And then we talk about educational passports, and there's been discussion about, well, do we have to do an educational passport? Do we not have to do an educational passport? Will Infinite Campus suffice for an educational passport? The short answer to that question is yes, it will, if. And there are certain documents that should be sent to the school that's requesting records that is not automatically stored within Infinite Campus. And so if you're going to use Infinite Campus solely as your educational passport, then you're going to have to make sure that you upload all of those documents into Infinite Campus, and then contact the school that you are releasing the records to and let them know exactly where those records can be found within Infinite Campus. Anybody that's worked with Infinite Campus knows that it's kind of daunting, and there are lots of tabs, and you just are unsure where things are. So communication is key. It is best to communicate with those schools that are requesting records and just make sure that it's very clear where everything can be found. Then sometimes I hear, well, what do I need to send? So the reason I have chosen Justin to co-facilitate this with me is because he does an excellent job in records transferring, sending them out. So I'm going to turn it over to Justin now, and he's got a lot of really good information, and he's done some screenshots. Like I said, Infinite Campus can be daunting, and you have all these different tabs and you don't know which tab to click on. And so he's done a really nice job of creating some screenshots that show you exactly how to upload documents, where to put them. And so I'll let him take it from here. Go ahead, Justin.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Well, it's still morning here technically, but I hope everybody's had a good day so far. I'm going to maneuver my screen around a little bit and get ready to share my screen. But one thing that I started to do once I took over here at Mayfield YDC is I became really proactive in digital storing of information. It's easier for me to click on a couple of electronic folders than to get into the filing cabinet, dig through, and find things and stuff like that. So one thing that I make sure I get the right window I'm displaying here. Let me see. And I want this one. I want to share. Hopefully you see a folder set up that I have. I've got some generic names here due to confidentiality, but I'll have a student folder for every student. And then as things happen, as I get stuff like report cards, star reading, star math reports, anything that I get, certifications that I get on students, I save a PDF copy of it. And if you look at student A here, this is anything and everything I've got on this kid during the course of his. This kid just left me the other day, and this is all of his information. You see ACT score down here. I'm not going to open these up because then you would see information, but all of his STAR test scores. Up at the top here, I pinned his progress in his English, U.S. history, and things like that I can quickly send to, and I get that from our digital curriculum that we use. We use Edgenuity does a great job of printing out a course summary report showing exactly where that kid is. And then once I do that for that student, I then go and upload this information into the ILPA Documents tab before I release records. I'll get the records request from a given school. Most of my kids step down to a group home. A lot of times, sometimes they will actually go to their home school, but I do the same thing for everything. I also give them a packet with all of this information, a paper copy to give to the educational partner when they walk into school the next day when they get there. So if you're not familiar with the ILPA, it is a link in your Infinite Campus. If you can't see it, I've got it screenshotted here on this. Can you see the document, by the way? Okay. The little blue arrow, if you can't see that, it means you don't have the rights to see that. And if you need to have the rights to that, that is within your district. IC person gives those rights to you. This is also where the KEXAC tab is located. We should all be doing that, filling that out for our KEXAC ADM reports, basically quarterly that we have to do for that. And it's all right there together. So first thing you do is I click on that ILPA tab, and you see the next blue arrow. I select the Documents tab. That will take me where I want to upload. You can see the KEXAC tab right there off to the side as well. So hopefully you've got rights to that. From there, I click on Upload New Document, and you see this kid's, there's his ILPA plan right there that I have for him. Now I'm uploading everything that I want to send the new school for him. And the rule of thumb I use is, what would I love for a kid to walk in and say, hey, Mr. Hubbard, here's all this stuff from this school. Take out of it what you want and stuff. So from there, it's basically, I click on Upload New Document, and now I'm going to name it, and I have to go find it where I've stored it in that student's folder. And it's just a matter of a few minutes that, hey, I want a credit summary sheet, click, go attach it. U.S. history progress, click, go attach it. English progress, click, go attach it. STAR post test. I work my way down through everything that I want to send. Fiber optic certification certificate, click. ACT, a scan of his test scores, click. I attach all that and send it on. And then I do that one at a time for each document. And once I get done, you kind of see everything that I've attached for this student here. You may not want some of this information, but then again, you might, because a lot of times, especially certifications, get lost by the students. And they're going to call the school back, hey, do you have a copy of my diploma? Do you have a copy of my whatever? And it's great to have these things digitally, so you don't have to go back to the records room and pull that stuff out and go digging for it and stuff. So another key thing here is you can only upload PDF files or Word files. You cannot upload Excel spreadsheets if you save things that way. Just print it off as a PDF file, then you save that, and you can upload it that way. It's one thing that I've learned over the years doing this. This looks like a lot of work, but it's not. It's just a couple of minutes of my time of doing it, and I do that before I release the records. Once I do that, those should then pop up in the released items documents under the ILPA documents. You should be able to see those and import those into your database. You may not want to copy the OSHA 10 card, but I do it out of convenience sake, just in case your vocational program wants to have proof that they got it. It's there and stuff. So it's a great way to send valuable information to your students. Like I said, upload documents that I would love to get. And just a few examples are test scores, certificates, ILPs, course progress, and other related pieces vital. If I have copies of the Social Security card and or birth certificate, I'll try to upload those if I can. Our emailing system won't allow those to be emailed, and you shouldn't email those anyways. It'll flag those. So it's a matter of getting them scanned and in, because that is something we keep in our records if we can get those and stuff. That is the big stuff there. Like I said, if you don't have the ability to do this, it's a rights issue that you definitely want to check with your district. The hardest part about all of this is getting this set up and getting in the habit of doing it. That is the most daunting part, and it's really not that it's daunting. It's just the more you do it, the easier it gets because it becomes second nature. When I print report cards, I immediately just start printing off copies of PDF copies and saving them in each student's name folder that I have for them. And the same thing for ILPs, credit summary sheets, STAR test scores, anything and everything. I've got a copier that scans straight to my email, and I just save it that way. Also, you see a former student. That's every former student that I have come across a digital record for, that if they call up here, I go here first before I go digging in the file room to see if I've got a copy of it and stuff. And it just makes my life a world easier. I know it made my secretary's life a lot easier before she retired. And again, it's just to me, it's just good practice of getting in this habit of sending the next step on your student's journey useful information that they're going to want. You know, I don't put the immunization in there because we keep that updated in Infinite Campus, and that's a record that releases automatically. I don't send copies of transcripts to the ILPA because that's released through Infinite Campus automatically. I don't put copies of report cards when I do the ILPA upload because we keep the grades updated before we release the progress or 9 weeks. So that's sent automatically, but I do send the course progress and things like that. So that's the big stuff that I've got in regards to using the ILPA documents and the process on how to do that. You have to answer any questions now or later if you have that. I see some people can't see my screen. I'm sorry. I'm not familiar with zip drives, Jim, but I do know people do use that, and that's a quick way to send a lot of information compressed to other people. I've just never used it, but that is definitely a possibility as well.
Okay, one thing that, you have a question. Do you have a list of what's on your checklist to enter in the ILPA? Do you have that, Justin?
I don't have a list per se that I make sure is in there. I just look at the documents that I have saved for a given student during their stay here, because the longer a student's here, the more I'm going to have. And I just look through and say, all right, they don't need the 60-day review that I've done on this kid, but they might want a copy of his post-STAR test score or his ILP or credit summary. And I just kind of look at what I've gathered during that kid's time, because if a kid maybe only here 3 months and gets stepped up to say a higher level facility, I'm not going to have as much data to send. So I just look at what I've gathered over that course of time and upload what I feel is pertinent to send on to that next placement.
Hey, Justin, it's April.
Yeah.
You know, putting together a list, even if it's just, you know, a very short list of the most common things, might not be a bad idea for us to be able to share with all of our programs, because I know we've talked many times about how big of an issue this is. So that might not be a bad idea to make at least a short list, and then, you know, obviously add whatever you feel would be helpful.
Right. I could definitely get something together because, you know, the credit summary sheet is just a document in-house. I know it has been shared out, but it's a good way to kind of track your kids' graduation progress. And I'll get a list together, and if I can and get it in the chat, things that I can think of or remember, and I'll put it in the chat, and then I'll also try to get it out to KEXAC and see if they can disseminate it that way as well.
Awesome. Let me know, Justin, if you want to get together, and maybe you and I can brainstorm to like somebody mentioned a flow chart, something like that.
Sounds good.
Yes, and you know, the thing that really I want to make sure that we know is that you have access to that ILPA tab, because for students in our programs, if they are there longer than 10 days, then an ILPA is supposed to be completed for them unless the student has an individualized education plan, an IEP. So really, I would love for you all to make sure, go in today, tomorrow, this afternoon, and make sure you have access to that tab, because, you know, that's imperative in getting the ILPA uploaded, as it is a requirement. And one thing I wanted to expand on a little bit that Justin was talking about was, you know, including course progress. So many of our students now participate in online learning on a digital platform. And each of those have options where you can print out, how much progress the student has made. And some of those will even be specific as to what skills, what topics, what units were completed. And so that would be very helpful if you say we're going from Justin's program who does Edgenuity, and they step down to a day treatment, and that day treatment's using Apex. That's where a lot of problems come in for kids, as they are transferring from one program to another program, using one online curriculum here and another there. If we could be very diligent and intentional about sending those course reports, then the receiving school could kind of tailor that online program in order to make sure the student isn't doing the first part of Algebra 1, linear functions, on 2 different places, but still not getting the quadratic equation. Making sure they're covering all of the topics, all of the standards within, say, an Algebra 1 class. So the fact that, Justin includes that in what he transfers, I think is awesome, because then we get a better snapshot of where that kid is as far as that coursework goes, and where we can pick up and move them forward, instead of, having that continuous, like we're starting over again and again and again. And while we're kind of on that topic of moving from program to program, many times some of our kids will move 2, 3, or 4 times within a year. And sometimes we say, oh, well, they weren't here long enough to earn a credit. And if you say that 4 different times, the student has worked all year and not earned any credits at all. So I think another thing that we have to be very diligent in doing is taking a look at what that student has completed as far as coursework goes, and check with all the programs where that student has attended throughout the year, and see if we can't, what some people call Frankenstein, some credits for the transcript, because it's very disheartening for our kids who have worked hard for however long, a semester, all year, and aren't receiving the credits that they would have earned had they been in one place, for the entire school year. So I think that's another reason for the diligence in including course progress, so that we can have these kids earn as many credits as possible, again, because they're already at a disadvantage because they're in a program. Justin, did you have any luck?
Yeah, I got something added into the chat on just some quick things that I try to make sure that I include if I have them. Again, I'm like, if a kid's not here very long, I'm not going to have as much stuff to add, but still, anything that I can pass on to this kid's journey, to me, is a benefit. I don't upload the tuition waiver to this just because I give them a copy of that as they leave, and then we make that part of our mailing to the parent as they leave as well, and stuff. So that is not on our list of things that we add. But as you can see in the chat, that credit summary, that is just an Excel spreadsheet that we keep in house, that I then just save it as a PDF copy, and it just helps me track is for English, is just for math, science, social, whatever it is that's required for the given year. I send that on as well and stuff. So, but it is, again, this is not a daunting thing. I promise you that it's not. Just moving in that direction, it gets easier. It's like a snowball going downhill. You just do it without even thinking about it, and it just takes a matter of seconds. You may see a records request. Oh, I got to get this released before I get in trouble. Take the couple of minutes that it takes. Share with your colleagues the information that you think that they might find beneficial enrolling that kid. I promise you, the 5-10 minutes that it takes is worth the time to do it, to help these kids, because like you said, all of our kids are transient and they haven't been some places very long, and anything that you can provide to help them, like you said, Frankenstein that class together is beneficial to those kids, and these kids are worth the time that it takes. I'm never too busy not to make sure my kids have what they need to successfully transition. Like the one I had leave this week, as of Monday, he didn't know he was leaving. It wasn't my place to tell him that. He was gone Tuesday morning before I could get into work and give him his packet. So I've got everything ready to go on Infinite Campus to release to the district once I get it. And then I'm probably going to be mailing his packet that I normally would hand him to Mom, that so she could have, and it's got the tuition waiver in there, a copy of his transcript. She's not going to need half the stuff I send her, but it's also got a copy of his ACT score, all of his certificates he's earned, a copy of his OSHA 10 card, those kind of things that she could have with her and stuff, should something gets lost along the way and stuff. So do the same thing with copies of diplomas. We add that, they probably ought to add that in there if we get it. Now, technically, you don't transition kids to Infinite Campus once they graduate, but anything and everything I get, I try to make sure that the next school gets along the way that they might find beneficial. I promise you it's worth the time and stuff.
And Justin, you bring up a couple of very good points, and one is that credit summary report. That is so important for the next school to have, because I never will forget, I would sit down and I would say, okay, how many credits do you have? I don't know. Well, what classes were you in? Well, I don't know. How many credits? You know, the kids often do not remember. And so to have that piece of paper, that credit summary, and those progress reports for classes on how far they are, that's invaluable in getting students enrolled in the correct classes. And I know that might not seem like records transfer, but it really, truly, it is. You know, our kids need to be enrolled in the correct classes. I've looked at transcripts before that we had 2 English 1 credits. How did that happen? I've looked at transcripts before where they've had half a credit in English, 9th grade English, a half a credit in 10th grade English, a half a credit in 11th grade English, but no other halves. I feel like if we do a good job of tracking those transcripts, tracking those credits, those credit sheets, that, you know, this would be happening less and less, because like I said, our kids are already behind the 8 ball. Let's help them out as much as we can. Also, what Justin was talking about, when his kids leave, and he is a residential facility, and like he said, a lot of times they will transfer, you know, step down to a group home situation and maybe to a day treatment. He puts together all of those things that he sends electronically and puts them in a big envelope, you know, one of those big, you know, closers, and sends a copy of that with the kid. Now, even though that's not official, the next school could look at those and get started, because, you know, it's oftentimes our kids aren't with us long. And if it takes us a week to get them enrolled in the correct classes, that's a week they've lost. And kids that don't have anything to do can become a behavior problem. And kids that feel like they're just doing busy work until we can figure out what to do with them, you know, they're savvy. They know that, you know, we're just doing whatever, you know, we're just killing time until we can get in the right place. We need to make every educational day count for these kids. And it's important that they know that what they're doing is important, and it's important for them to know that what they're doing is going to count toward their credits. You know, I've had kids, when I do my student interviews, I said, well, I don't know if this is going to count or not. Or particularly in like a day treatment, they will say, well, I was here before, and then when I got to my regular school, none of that counted. So, you know, they feel like, you know, well, what I'm doing doesn't matter. It's not important. It's not going to count. But we need to ensure them, say, look, I went back to your last 2 places, and look, we found a credit. You know, just being very intentional about making sure that what they're doing is counting, and making sure that we send that to the next school. And again, if that's just progress on a course, it's progress on a course that they can pick up at their next placement.
If I could add a couple more things. you know, we do feel some stress when we get that records request. Oh, I need to get this sent on right away so they can get these kids moving. Please don't release those records until you know you're done inputting, updating the transcript. Talk to your teachers. I'm fortunate for the most part. I know when my kids are going to transfer. There's some emergency things going on, but if you have a heads up, take the time beforehand to make sure that all that information is up to date and IC before you release, because you're saving your counterparts a ton of work if you're releasing incomplete records and then they've got to reach back out to you saying, hey, they said they finished that. And we've all been there. We've all had those conversations and that kind of stuff. Also, I'll show my screen one more time, that credit summary sheet we've been talking about. Let me share that real fast.
Take your time.
And here we go. Hopefully, if you can see it, Miss Angela nod. It should be an Excel spreadsheet. Do you see it? All right. So this is a very generic version. If you look at the bottom, I got some separate tabs. This is for any kid that basically my juniors and seniors that started 2018 or earlier. They have different graduation requirements for kids that started in 2019-20. And they have different graduation requirements that started in, there's 2019-20 and then 20 and 21. And I've modified this to kind of flow with what they fall under. So like kids for last year and on, you see they got to get 4 English credits, 4 math, 3 science, 3 social studies, and then a lot of your other qualifiers here. You know, I've got the civics test added in there, so you can say pass or fail there, financial literacy, a lot of this stuff now and I just, like I said, I just save this off as a PDF copy in order to upload that way when they get to you, you could print this off if you need be. And this is something my predecessor used. I loved it, so I kept using it. Sonny had this, and he used it. And then anytime a kid gets a credit with me, when I update their transcript, they get a new copy of their transcript. And they get a new copy of this showing where they stand at that given moment. And it may be a kid's been working hard and he finishes up a couple things in a matter of a couple weeks, but he'll get 2 copies of it. He just gets rid of the old and updates with the new and stuff. So that way he knows at any one time where he stands in regards to his journey, his educational journey towards graduation and stuff. So like I said, I can't upload it like this in ILPA. It won't let me upload an Excel spreadsheet. So that's why I save it as a PDF copy. But I have these it's all formatted to do all the math for me. I don't have to, I just put in 0.51 and it adds it all up for me and stuff. So I'm happy to share this with anybody. I know we kind of did it, about 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago, we sent it out. If anybody else didn't get it and wants it, I will get this available to Miss Angela and KEXAC, and we'll figure out a way to get it to you.
That's exactly what I was just getting ready to say. We had a in-house retreat work session, and that was one of the things that we talked about. You know, what are some documents that we could share on our website that, you know, would be beneficial for teachers, and you know that credit checklist, credit summary or credit checklist was one of those. So Justin, if you could send that to Cindy, we can have her put that on the KEXAC website, because I think that one is very nicely done. It's succinct, and you know, we've had lots of comments in the chat talking about, yeah, I'd really like to have that. You know, we have one, but it's not digital. And so I think that would be awesome if we could get a copy of that up to KEXAC, and then we could get that perhaps on the website. So what questions do you all have around records and transfers and transferring records? What are some issues you're having? What do you think we need to share? I'm going to open it up to the floor. Anyone?
I think one of the big issues has always been releasing everything before you got the grades and the transcript. we get those quite often. So, we've had it several times with ninth graders that appeared like they had no credits and they actually had credits. Or especially in the summertime, I think it's more of an issue where you have a lap of, where kids leave and when they're released, it's different there than it is the rest of the year.
Jim, I totally agree with that. And part of me thinks that I have the privilege or the ability that either me or Miss Vicky were the ones releasing my records. Nobody else in the district would do it but me. So we knew when we were ready to release. Part of me wonders if other districts, maybe there's somebody in-house that's like, oh, his request released before you may not even realize the request has come through or whatnot. I hope that's not the case, but I think that may be part of it. And if that is what's going on, it may be worth having some conversations at the district level saying, hey, listen, we've got stuff we're uploading. Do not release our records. We will release them for us. That's just a thought that I've had over the years regarding that. If that's not the case, and you are releasing a little early, take the time that it needs to make sure you've got everything in there ready to go and stuff. And it may just be, hey, shoot an email. Hey, we're getting ready to release, but we got a couple things to upload. Then we're going to release that kind of stuff. It takes seconds to do that kind of thing, and to me, it's just good practice and common courtesy.
It is, and I think oftentimes people do not upload, update the transcripts till the end of a semester, and I tell you, a lot of our kids, especially in residential programs, they aren't released at the end of a semester neat and tidy. So, then it becomes a thing of, the administrator has to really sit down and say, okay, is this kid's transcript updated? But Jim, you're absolutely right. Sometimes those get away from us, are released a little bit quick, and then we have to go back and kind of to revamp it.
Yeah, I think one of the things that ought to happen is that every kid should have a credit count under that ILPA tab. I mean, that should be there regardless, because that kid needs to know where he is as far as graduation is concerned, and he needs a copy of that as well. But that's one of the things that, has griped me forever, is getting in a kid who has 2 credits in English 1. Okay. And, what do you do with that? I mean, you're trying to graduate the kid, but he's got 2 credits in English 1 or a credit and a half in English 1. So if you've got a credit count and the student is doing it, or your teachers are doing a credit count, or whoever's doing it, that sort of eliminates that you don't over enroll or enroll a kid in the wrong place. Because I mean, I've seen it, dozens and dozens of times. So a kid is, just basically lost that semester. I mean, it's hard to graduate him. You can't really count that forward to another English. So it's an issue.
Exactly. And again, our kids are already behind the 8 ball, so let's help them out all we can, Anybody else have something, question, concern, ideas, solutions? Floyd Broughton says KEXAC override edit on IC to prevent any releases by district unless KEXAC hits release. Just a thought. I don't know if that's something that would be doable or not. But while we're talking about that, Infinite Campus, I know tomorrow there's going to be a breakout session at 10:15. And someone from Infinite Campus is going to be leading that breakout, and there's going to be a lot of valuable information shared about our programs, KEXAC programs, and what that looks like in Infinite Campus. So, that would be a great session to kind of follow up with this one to get more of the nuts and bolts of IC. So that would be great.
Angela?
Yes.
I have a student now from Paducah Tillman that's working on his credits. He's already completed 1, but I don't go on there and put that on the transcript from me. I send the work he has completed with the grade back to them, and they put it on there, correct?
If he's enrolled with you, I think it's Christian County that has to put that on there because he's earned that in Christian County, not Paducah.
Even though it's just like the last little bit of the work that he completed to finish the course?
If he earned it with you at Cumberland Hall, then that'll be a Christian County credit.
Okay.
Thank you for that question. Anyone else? Crickets. All right. Well, again, I appreciate you attending our session because, you know, records can be both frustrating but also rewarding. Rewarding for our kids if they're done well, and frustrating if they're not. But again, I just can't say enough about how much we need to advocate for our students, how much we need to work hard to ensure that they are earning credits for the work they've completed. It's so frustrating to not see the rewards from their efforts. Got one chat comment. Don't really understand why special education records have to be requested then released. When the student enrolls, it seems to me that the record should automatically be available to the receiving school. You know, I'm not sure about that. That might be a locking thing, but I know that probably tomorrow with our IC people, I think that special education is going to be addressed within that as well. So we shall see. Oh, Sherry Klusky says everything can be released at once. So that's good to know.
Yeah, those IEPs got to be locked and stuff. The biggest hiccup in a lot of this stuff to me that I have found, and a lot of our programs will find, is the summertime. I may be out of the office, they may be out of the office. That's the big hiccup here. And there's not, to me, not a quick, easy fix to that unless you're willing to just on your off time log into IC and see if a request has come through, especially if you know a kid is leaving and that kind of stuff. So I don't know a good solution to that, but you know, and things that I've suggested that I do, that's what works for me and my guys. I don't attest to be the be all end all of records transfer. These are just habits that I've gotten into in my 6+ years here of doing this, that I haven't had anybody say, man, you sent me too much. Don't send me all that. I don't want it, and stuff. So nobody's done that yet. They may be saying it in their office, but nobody's called me up and said, dude, you're killing me. And again, it's the hardest part is the first steps of setting it up. And then once you get in that habit, it just becomes second nature of doing it. And I promise you, it's well worth the time that it takes, because you're not getting those calls a week later going, hey, he's saying or she's saying that they completed 2 classes and now you've got to go track down your teacher and say, what's going on? I thought everything. That's saving you work later on and stuff. So I hope everybody has a good rest of the day. I will share this information out with the spreadsheet. Anything else, me and Angela get together and get something together to get it shared out to everybody very soon. And that's all I've got.
Well, one thing you were talking about, the summertime. A lot of times if you have kids transferring in the summertime, you may have to contact the district central office to get those records released. They can do that through the district. But again, you might not have everything uploaded within IC for them, but at least you will have the records released and the other school can kind of get started with them. So, but I want to thank everyone for their attention and participation. I'm glad you signed up, and hopefully we can get records going a whole lot easier. If no one else has questions, I so appreciate it. Hope you have a great rest of the day and enjoy the rest of the conference.